a resonant, intriguing tone. Just listen closely for a second. Can you almost hear those whispers?
Mm.
The ones carried on the salty air coming off the water in Fremantle?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's more like those chilling kind of muffled echoes you might imagine in some remote dark tunnel way out in the Perth Hills.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Or perhaps it's that really unsettling quiet, that deep silence that just hangs heavy over, say, the crumbling limestone ruins of an old farm, maybe a century old. A silence that feels like it holds, well, more than just nothing.
It's a loaded silence.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this then. Welcome to our Logic Lake deep dive. Today we're really peeling back the layers on the spectral side of Western Australia.
Mm-hmm.
This deep dive is taking us on a pretty incredible journey, actually. A kind of spectral expedition through the haunting heart of the southwest region. We're zooming in on places from, busy Perth and historic
Fremantle, yeah.
all the way down the coast to Bunbury, then inland to timber towns like Nannup, those mysterious Perth Hills, and, well, a whole lot of fascinating spots in between.
There's so many stories packed into that area.
There really are. We're talking about places where the history feels so thick, it's almost like you can still feel it breathing around you.
Okay.
We're going to explore these tales that are just deeply embedded in this really rich historical context.
Absolutely.
Everything from grand old colonial buildings and stark, brutal old prisons to these really isolated homesteads out in the bush, and even, surprisingly, the buzz of a modern shopping center.
Which is an odd one, but yeah, we'll get to that.
We will. And our sources today, they're as varied as the stories themselves. We've got historical articles, painting these vivid pictures of the past.
Old newspaper clippings, documents.
Right. And then modern eyewitness accounts that are just hard to explain away easily, lively chats on social media, forums, and even some really detailed paranormal investigations trying to, well, make sense of it all.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is how all these different sources, from 100-year-old documents right up to like recent reports or even CCTV footage, how they all kind of weave together. They form this really rich tapestry of, well, human experience and belief, really.
Yeah.
So our mission today, what we're aiming for, is to meticulously pull out the most compelling bits, the nuggets of knowledge and insight from all this stuff.
Yeah, the juicy details.
Exactly. We're not just, telling spooky stories for the sake of it. We want to delve into the history behind these ghost stories. We're looking for the consistent patterns in what people report and ultimately trying to understand what this all tells us about, well, our enduring human fascination with the unknown.
Right.
And for you listening, our goal, as always, is quick, thorough knowledge. We want those aha moments for you without making you feel swamped by just, tons of information.
Yeah, keep it manageable but deep.
Precisely. We'll keep it engaging, factual, maybe with a little touch of that eerie atmosphere to keep you hooked.
Just a touch.
But always, always grounded in the material we've actually got in front of us.
That's the promise. So with that said, let's cast off, shall we? We're going to start our journey where so many stories in WA actually began by the sea. That huge, often unforgiving ocean. We'll explore the haunting tales that seem to cling to the coast, its waters, and, the things left behind. And there's probably no better place to start than with a ship. A vessel that just seemed to be a magnet for bad luck right from day one. The Alkimos wreck.
Oh, the Alkimos. Yeah, it's almost legendary, isn't it? A real icon of bad luck and, well, reported hauntings, especially for anyone familiar with the WA coast up north of Minderry Keys.
Definitely.
Its history alone is just, it's a saga of misfortune. It was originally built in Baltimore, USA, way back in 1943, right in the thick of World War II.
The Liberty ship, wasn't it?
Exactly, the George M. Shriver. Now, these ships, they were designed for speed, quick construction. Usually took about 10 days.
Right.
But the George M. Shriver, it was, well, an anomaly right from the get-go. Took a staggering 6 weeks to build.
6 weeks? Why so long?
Well, reports suggested parts just wouldn't fit properly, machinery kept breaking down, accidents constantly plagued the construction site. There were even these dark rumors, right from the shipyard days, that a worker got accidentally sealed inside the double hull. And another really unsettling story about a murder-suicide happening on board even before it was finished.
Geez, that's incredibly ominous for a ship's beginning. It almost sounds like it was cursed from the keel up.
It really does. It's like this malevolent shadow was cast over it from its very inception, as if, some bad intention was just woven into its steel.
So did that reputation, that string of bad luck, did it just follow it around, even when it changed names and owners, or did it ever catch a break?
Well, unfortunately, it seems its luck never really turned. After its uh, pretty undistinguished war service apparently spent more time in dry dock for repairs than actually sailing it got sold off. Went to a Norwegian company, renamed the Viggo Hanstein. But the name change, well, it didn't change its fate. Accidents, constant need for repairs just kept happening.
Still plagued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then in 1961, it had this severe collision with another ship in a British harbor, sustained really significant damage.
Wow.
Once it was patched up again, sold again, this time to a Greek firm, and that's when it became the Alkimos.
The name we know it by.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, I think, is our human tendency. We personify bad luck. Just ship, just steel and machinery, right? But it becomes this character, almost imbued with this, like, malevolent will. Maybe it's our way of trying to rationalize stuff that just defies logical explanation, this recurring misfortune.
And its most famous incident, the one here in WA, its final journey, that involved even more questionable decisions, didn't it? And just an unbelievable streak of bad luck that ended with it wrecked off our coast.
That's the one. 1963. It's on its way from Jakarta down to Bunbury, and bam, strikes a reef off the WA coast. Now, what's really baffling is the captain. He reportedly delayed calling for help for 3 whole days.
3 days. Why?
Who knows? Pride, misjudgment, and even when a tug arrived, he initially refused help. Tried for another 2 days, just using the ship's own winches.
Unbelievable.
Eventually, a salvage expert had to step in. They finally got it refloated, towed it to Fremantle for repairs. But then, this mysterious fire breaks out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, destroys a huge chunk of the interior. And then, to top it all off, the ship gets impounded because of outstanding debts from previous repairs. Financial trouble piled onto the physical damage.
This ship just seemed to attract trouble, like a magnet for disaster. So what happened when they finally decided, okay, enough's enough, let's scrap it?
Well, the owners decided against more repairs, yeah.
Right.
Arranged for it to be towed to Hong Kong for scrapping. But, naturally, right after it leaves port.
Let me guess. More bad luck.
You got it. An unforecast gale hits the coast. The tow line snaps. The Alkimos drifts and hits Eglinton Rocks.
For goodness sake.
And then multiple attempts to salvage it. All failed. Plagued by mishaps, equipment breakdowns, and tragically, even the death of one of the salvage company owners. Reportedly just collapsed and died during the operation.
That's awful. It really feels like something was actively preventing its removal.
Doesn't it? Eventually, a tug called the Pacific Star managed to pull it free. But guess what? A few kilometers later, impounded again.
You're kidding.
Nope, more unpaid debts. So they anchor it. But then it breaks its anchor chain in a heavy swell, and for the third and final time, grounds itself. This time in shallow water off Mindarie, where its wreck remained for decades.
It's just an incredible sequence of events. It's almost like the ship itself was fighting back, resisting its end. I can only imagine the salvage crews trying to deal with it.
Oh, absolutely. The stories they must have told.
And given this truly, truly troubled history, it's really no surprise at all that paranormal activity has been so heavily reported around the Alkimos wreck.
Not surprising in the least. Those reports really add another layer to its whole mystique. Since it was abandoned, these mystery fires have just kept blackening the wreck, appearing without any clear cause.
Spooky.
Then there was that really chilling discovery, remember? A swimmer's skull found in the wreckage.
Right. Herbert Voigt vanished swimming to Rottnest in '69.
Exactly. And the salvage crews, the caretaker stationed on board, they reported all sorts of strange stuff. Unexplained noises, distinct cooking smells coming from empty galleys, objects moving on their own.
Classic poltergeist-type activity.
Pretty much. But the most famous report is the ghost of Harry. Or maybe Henry, the name varies.
Okay.
Described as a large man dressed in oilskins.
Yeah.
Reportedly seen walking across the deck and then just vanishing. Straight into a closed steel door.
Wow. Like a residual replay?
That's often how it's categorized. Yeah. A residual haunting, like an energy imprint, just replaying a past moment over and over.
And even really experienced people like Jack Sue, a WWII Z-Force member you mentioned, Australia's elite special forces back then. Not someone easily spooked, you'd imagine.
Definitely not.
Even he encountered strange things. During his investigations, I think it was with the TV crew, he admitted being affected by weird noises and inexplicable problems with their equipment.
Yeah, and that's powerful coming from someone like him. It really speaks to the ship's unsettling atmosphere.
It does.
And that's not even everything. There's that weird story about a barking dog.
A barking dog on a shipwreck.
Yeah. Apparently, this unexplained sound was reported in the engine room way back when the ship was still operating. But creepily, it was heard again, 25 years later, by Jack Sue himself when he was investigating the abandoned wreck.
That is bizarre, like a persistent sound echo.
Exactly. And all feeds into this widespread belief, this kind of local legend, that anyone associated with the Alkimos just suffers bad luck, accidents, misfortune, even death. It's like the ship carries this malevolent energy that reaches out beyond the metal itself, almost like a curse attached to its legacy.
Wow, what a story. Okay, from the ill-fated Alkimos, let's turn now to another coastal site, one that's deeply marked by suffering and death, but not from the sea. This time, it's from invisible enemies, disease. We're talking about the Woodman Point Quarantine Station in Coogee.
Ah, yes, Woodman Point. That place is practically legendary in WA's haunted landscape, certifiably one of the most talked about spots.
Why is that? What's its history?
Well, it was established way back in 1886. And it wasn't just any hospital. It was specifically built as an isolation facility designed to handle highly contagious diseases.
Okay.
It treated victims of the bubonic plague outbreak in 1901, and later things like smallpox, tuberculosis, leprosy, even the Spanish flu pandemic.
So really serious, often deadly diseases.
Absolutely. For 90 years, it was basically a place of last resort. An isolation hospital where it's estimated over 300 people lost their lives, often in pretty harrowing conditions, totally separated from their families.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And the site itself contains 2 graveyards. The final cremation there back in 1943 was for a smallpox victim. And the legend says his ghost now appears as these glowing orbs that float around the crematorium.
Orbs.
Yeah. But just think about it, the sheer concentration of fear, illness, pain, and death over nearly a century. It makes it a prime candidate for, well, some kind of profound lingering presence.
Given that intense history, that concentration of suffering at Woodman Point, how do the reported hauntings kind of reflect that past? Are people seeing full figures, or is it something different, more sensory?
That's a great point. The prevalence of sensory hauntings there is really telling, I think.
Yeah.
Visitors consistently report these sudden waves of nausea hitting them, or profound chills that kind of go right to your bones. And this overwhelming sense of dread just washing over them when they enter the old dormitories. And these aren't just, vague feelings. People describe doors creaking open by themselves.
Okay.
And hearing distinct coughing in the darkness. A really dry, raspy cough that sounds unnervingly close. Like a patient is right there beside you suffering.
That's incredibly disturbing. It's like feeling the past instead of seeing it.
Exactly. It suggests an imprint of suffering so deep that it bypasses just seeing an apparition. It becomes this visceral, almost empathetic echo that forces you to feel the weight of what happened there.
Wow.
And one of those heartbreaking aspects, for me, is the reported presence of children's ghosts. People hear the sound of small footsteps running down halls, or soft knocks on doors when no one's there.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. And it's often linked specifically to the smallpox outbreaks that tragically tore families apart, isolating kids from their parents in their final moments. Plus, you've got the creepy communal shower blocks, the incinerator chamber still holding ashes. It all contributes to this incredibly heavy, unsettling atmosphere.
Right. Okay, so from illness and isolation, our journey now takes a bit of a darker turn towards confinement and the unsettling shadow of injustice. This leads us to the Fremantle Roundhouse, Western Australia's oldest surviving public building. And this place holds a particularly tragic story, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The Roundhouse opened way back in 1831. It served as the main jail for all convicted criminals in the Swan River Colony until 1886. It's a stark building, really imposing, kind of reflects the harsh justice of that colonial era.
Yeah.
And underneath it, there's the Whalers Tunnel, originally used to drag whales ashore for processing.
Yeah.
And later was used as an air raid shelter during World War II. But the most poignant story, the one that really anchors a lot of the paranormal reports, is about John Gavin.
The young boy.
Yeah, just 15 years old. He was the site of WA's first legal execution. He'd been placed on a farm near Pinjarra, then accused of murdering the head farmer's son. Hanged just a week later.
A week? That's incredibly fast.
Shockingly fast. And many historians and local lorekeepers widely believe he was actually innocent, which makes his death this profound injustice. His body was just unceremoniously buried in an unmarked grave in the sand dunes right next to the Roundhouse's shipwreck gallery.
And it's John Gavin, isn't it, who's widely believed to be the main source of the paranormal activity there, still protesting his innocence, maybe. His spirit unable to rest after such a quick and, well, questionable end.
His story, yeah. Such a tragic tale youth. perceived injustice. It provides this really powerful anchor for all the claims of unrest and activity in the roundhouse.
So what kind of things do people report?
Visitors consistently mention loud noises, objects bumping around in the shipwreck gallery near where he's supposedly buried,
Hmm.
often attributed to Gavin's restless spirit.
Okay.
People also describe feeling this strange pressure on their chest or icy hands just grazing their arms. Faint whispers in, like an unknown language,
Yeah.
almost like the past trying to make its plea heard. And there's this very specific chilling detail. Security cameras have allegedly captured doors creaking open by themselves at exactly 3:11 a.m.
Why that time?
That was apparently the exact time of John Gavin's death. That kind of precision often points towards what investigators call an intelligent haunting, where an entity might be consciously replaying or drawing attention to its moment of death.
Right.
There's even an anecdote from a ghost tour. A dog, usually calm, apparently became viciously defensive, just barking like mad at an empty space near a wall.
Mm.
You hear that a lot, animals reacting to things we can't see.
Animals definitely seem more sensitive. Okay, our final coastal stop takes us to a place many people associate with holidays, quokkas, relaxation, but which actually hides a profoundly dark and tragic past. Rottnest Island.
Ah, Roto. Yeah, beneath that tourist paradise veneer, there's a history that's deeply unsettling.
Most people probably don't know the full story.
Probably not. It was formerly a penal colony, specifically for Aboriginal prisoners, and it's known as the site with the highest number of deaths in custody in Australian history.
That's a shocking statistic.
It is, and it's something that should really make us pause and think, especially considering the island's current use. It forms this profound basis for the ghostly accounts you hear. And disturbingly, the old campground, Tent Land, is reportedly built directly on top of Aboriginal prisoner graves.
Oh, that's awful. Disrespectful.
Deeply. And this historical suffering, coupled with that kind of disrespect shown to the dead, it really fuels the stories. And remember, many of these aren't just local legends, they're crucial parts of Indigenous oral history.
Right. And the accounts themselves are quite varied, aren't they? Touching on different aspects of the island's grim past, not just vague feelings.
Indeed. The Rottnest Lodge, for instance, is said to house 2 female ghosts. One is supposedly a pregnant teenager who committed suicide after her lover rejected her. The other is just known as Ethel.
Okay.
But beyond those specifics, there are numerous reports of Aboriginal ghosts haunting the island, which is, well, an understandable consequence of its brutal past. Visitors frequently report strong, unsettling feelings, pervasive bad vibes, and specific paranormal experiences in rooms, describing a definite something being felt inside. Shadow figures, white figures seen in the bushes at night are also common reports, often just vanishing into the dense scrub.
Any specific apparitions?
One person recounted being visited in their sleep.
Yeah.
Saw a man with a cane, dressed in colonial garb, standing at the foot of their bed. That clearly links back to the island's past as a place of colonial rule and subjugation.
Definitely.
So yeah, many people report feeling this distinct eerie atmosphere, especially once they learn the full extent of the island's dark history, which includes not just the prison, but also its use during wartime.
It really changes how you see the place.
If we connect this to the bigger picture then, these coastal tales, these maritime mysteries, they offer a really poignant glimpse into WA's early, often harsh past.
Yeah.
You can really feel how the suffering and injustice experienced, at sea or on the fringes of the early colony, how it left these indelible marks.
Yeah, like stains on the landscape.
Exactly. But the land itself and the structures built upon it, some of the most iconic, enduring buildings in the region, they hold even more stories. Stories of lives lived, suffered, and ended right within their walls.
Okay.
So, let's move inland now. Explore some of these truly iconic haunted buildings that dot the Southwest. And first up, let's look at the Fremantle Arts Centre, a place that's had this complete transformation, but seems to have kept some of its former residents behind.
It's such an interesting contrast, isn't it? A place
Yeah.
buzzing with arts and culture today, but built on such a foundation of pain. The Fremantle Arts Centre, it was originally built by convicts back in 1861, not as an arts hub, obviously, but as the Fremantle Lunatic Asylum.
Not a happy place.
Not at all. It was known for really punitive rules. Lots of questionable deaths happened within its walls, often due to neglect or just the harsh conditions of confinement back then. Later, it apparently became a sort of dumping ground for people with what they called antisocial behaviors, things like alcoholism, prostitution, rather than maybe genuine mental illness as we understand it now.
A way to remove undesirables.
Pretty much. After that, it was a home for old women, then even a WWII base for American forces, before finally being restored and opening as the Museum and Arts Center in 1972. It's had so many lives, so many different uses, and just so much concentrated emotion packed within those walls.
And through all those changes, the paranormal phenomena seem to have just persisted, almost as if the building itself remembers its original painful purpose.
So what do people report there?
Visitors consistently report encountering sudden, inexplicable cold spots, seeing moving lights, even full apparitions throughout the building.
Wow. Any specific stories?
There's one particularly chilling account of an apparition of a woman seen on the museum stairs. Apparently she whispers, with this real sadness, "Cold winds, that's what's in this place."
Ooh, that's specific and unsettling.
Isn't it? It implies this deep, pervasive chill, maybe from the suffering she endured there. And during an ABC broadcast, a medium, Anthony Grizelka, he experienced a significant temperature drop, like from 22 down to under 16 degrees Celsius in just 3 meters.
That's a big drop.
It is. And he also reported citing a tough and hardened spirit of a man, giving specific details that go beyond just a general feeling of unease. In paranormal investigations, those sudden temperature drops are often seen as a sign of energy being used, maybe for a spirit to manifest.
Right, I've heard that. And social media, places like Reddit, they also reflect these experiences, don't they? People talking about just an overall uneasy feeling.
Yep.
Or a specific corridor that just makes people turn back. They don't even know why. Faces seen at windows that are actually covered from the inside. There's even a legend about the ghost of a woman who lost her redheaded daughter. Some stories suggest she's still looking for her, tying this specific emotional story to the haunting.
It really sounds like the echoes of its asylum past are just deeply ingrained in the building's very fabric, like the stones themselves remember.
Okay, our next stop is the Kalamunda Hotel, built in 1928 up in the hills. It combines that sort of historic charm with a decidedly dark side, too. It was known for its location near the railway, even served as a WWII refuge, apparently. But now, it's equally famous for its ghostly inhabitants.
Yeah, it's a prime example of how these everyday places, pubs, hotels, can hold these surprising, really concentrated pockets of paranormal activity.
And it seems there isn't just one ghost there, but multiple spirits making themselves known. The main story, the one you hear most, revolves around a pregnant teenage girl.
Right, that's the classic Callum and the Ghost.
The stories vary a bit, don't they? Some say she committed suicide by jumping off the back balcony. Others say she died inside, in room 24 specifically. But what seems consistent is the phenomena linked to her. People see glowing lights coming from room 24 when it's definitely unoccupied. And the corridor outside apparently gets inexplicably icy cold, even in the middle of summer. Almost like her sadness manifests as this physical chill.
Beyond her, though, there's also reports of a young blonde woman ghost. She's apparently credited with mischievously removing items, making strange noises, maybe a more playful or just restless spirit.
Okay.
And local clairvoyants, people who claim psychic abilities, they've reported multiple other distinct entities in the hotel, too. An angry older man, 70s maybe, with a handlebar mustache.
Specific.
A 7-year-old girl wandering around with a life-size rag doll, and a woman in a white, high-collared Victorian-era dress.
Wow, it's crowded.
It suggests this layering, doesn't it? Different lives, different tragedies, each leaving its own imprint. It's really no wonder the hotel management jokes that you'll never be lonely at the Kalamunda. It's quite the spectral gathering, definitely a hotspot for ghost hunters.
Staying with historic hotels, let's talk about the Rose and Crown in Guildford. It's heritage listed, opened way back in 1841, WA's oldest operating hotel. But it also has some seriously deep roots and apparently some dark secrets.
Oh yeah, the Rose and Crown. Its history definitely sets the stage. You mentioned the deep roots. It features these extensive cellars, and there are stories, maybe legends, of illicit activities, even contraband being transported through a supposed tunnel system down to the Swan River. Hints of a past filled with clandestine dealings.
Muddlers and secrets. Perfect ghost story fodder.
Exactly. It invites speculation about who might still be hanging around. The spirits of convicts, maybe former visitors, are reportedly active, especially down in the cellar. Perhaps drawn to the echoes of their past confinement, or maybe just their old drinking spot.
And the hotel has seen its share of tragedy too, right? Adding to the eerie vibe.
It has. There are documented deaths. A man reportedly choked to death on an apple from the buffet, bizarrely enough. And a woman said to have been thrown down the stairs after being caught cheating on her husband. Events like that, sudden and violent, could easily create lingering trauma, energetically speaking. And even the owner, Mark Weber, who apparently identifies as a skeptic, he recounted seeing something pretty strange. The legless figure of a man wearing what looked like a pirate hat down in the cellar. which just vanished when he looked closer.
Wow. A legless pirate. That's quite a sight for a skeptic.
Isn't it? That kind of experience, especially for a non-believer, can really shake your foundations.
I bet. And the phenomena aren't just sightings, are they? There are other things happening.
No, you hear tales of glasses suddenly flying off shelves when no one's near them, doors slamming shut on their own, those icy drafts appearing out of nowhere. And another recurring figure, a man in a long coat seen near the fireplace who just vanishes when you approach him. Maybe a past patron still enjoying the warmth.
Or maybe waiting for someone.
Could be. There's also talk of the spirit of a former innkeeper described as angry and protective, said to linger in the wine cellar, still guarding his domain. And the legend of Charlie the bullock driver, supposedly murdered his wife in the hotel in a jealous rage, and now his remorseful ghost haunts the site. It paints a picture of a really active, varied haunting, residual energy, maybe intelligent spirits too.
Definitely sounds like a place with layers of stories. Okay, moving south now to Bunbury. We find Griddleton Lodge. It's this beautiful Victorian Georgian-style home built in 1885. But this location offers maybe a slightly different take on a haunting claim.
Yeah, Griddleton Lodge is interesting. It was the home of Robert and Esther Forrest. Now, Esther, she was the sister of an English social reformer. She married Robert. They had no children, and she became permanently invalided after a horse riding accident. Spent years ailing before eventually dying right there in the lodge in 1909.
That's a sad story. And her husband, Robert.
He was apparently quite a recluse, a real contrast to his very famous explorer brothers, Alexander and John Forrest. John Forrest being the first premier of WA, Lord Forrest.
Right, the Forrest brothers are legendary figures. So, given Esther's tragic life, her long illness, and dying in the house, it seems logical that some might speculate about her ghost still being there, a lonely spirit tied to her place of suffering.
It's easy to see why this story would arise, absolutely. Her life certainly provides a dramatic foundation for a haunting narrative. But this is where it gets interesting, and it really highlights that difference between a compelling story and, well, direct, verifiable experience.
So what's the situation there now?
Well, this case at Griddleton Lodge is a great example. While the history is tragic and evocative, the current staff are described as being very coy and non-committal when asked about ghosts.
Ah, okay, so no confirmation.
It suggests that despite the history, despite the potential for a ghost story, there aren't consistent, verifiable reports from the people who actually spend the most time there now.
Right, so it's more speculation based on the history.
Largely, yes. It makes you think about how much of a haunting's reality is built on that powerful allure of history and, human imagination versus actual ongoing phenomena. It's a good reminder that not every tragedy automatically results in a ghost, or at least not one that makes itself obvious.
That's a fair point. Okay, from Bunbury, let's head further south to Albany, to the Patrick Taylor Cottage. This is Western Australia's oldest surviving dwelling, dating all the way back to 1832. An incredibly historic home. And it also has its own spectral resident, apparently one who's quite punctual.
Yes, it does. The cottage was once owned by Patrick Taylor, who was a prominent religious figure, and his wife Mary died there in 1887. But the persistent legend there isn't about them, it's about Major Frederick Ingleby.
Who was he?
A Boer War veteran and a former tenant of the cottage. And his presence is supposedly tied to a specific time of year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His spirit is said to return to the cottage each year in September, specifically on the anniversary of his death. And during that time, visitors and staff report unexplained things happening, items being moved around, a general sense of unease settling over the place, like an annual spectral event.
It's scheduled haunting.
Pretty much. And the paranormal investigator Amy's Crypt, who we mentioned before, has featured this location, which lends it more credibility within that community. They often try to investigate during September, hoping to capture evidence. It's a very specific, almost cyclical haunting, quite different from the constant activity reported in other places.
Very interesting. Okay, from Albany, let's venture into the quiet timber town of Nannup. Seems like an unlikely spot for a famous ghost story, maybe? Yet it harbors one particularly spooky legend. The Old Bakery. A place supposedly frozen in time.
This one is truly fascinating. A real anomaly among haunted sites, I think. The building itself dates back to the early 1900s, functioned as a bakery and a shop. What makes its story so compelling is how it was mysteriously abandoned back in the 1930s. The legend goes that the proprietor just vanished overnight, left the shop fully stocked, as if he was just stepping out for a minute.
Wow. Left everything.
Everything. For decades, the building just sat there, dark, unused with all the original baking equipment, even loaves of bread left inside, slowly decaying. This incredible time capsule quality instantly fueled ghost stories. It created this enduring sense of profound mystery, inviting people to imagine the life that was just abruptly cut short.
That is incredibly eerie. A snapshot of life just paused, waiting for someone who never came back. And the paranormal activity reported there, it sounds like a classic poltergeist situation, doesn't it? Almost like the bakery is replaying its past, maybe out of frustration or something.
Precisely. Residents and visitors describe classic poltergeist phenomena, the clanging of pots and pans in the empty kitchen, the distinct sound of an old cash register ringing when no one's there, even disembodied voices of customers. One story you hear often is about an invisible patron ordering bread rolls and jam tarts at the counter, a direct echo of its former life.
That's amazing.
At night, passersby have claimed they heard a man and woman arguing loudly inside the locked, deserted bakery, followed by a door slam. But when they investigated, the place was empty.
Chilling.
And then there's the sensory stuff. The aroma of fresh baking bread said to waft from the building in the middle of the night, even though the ovens haven't been used in, decades.
Okay, skeptics might have explanations for smells or creaks.
Sure, lingering aromas, building settling, plausible explanations exist for some things.
Yeah.
But the combination of distinct auditory events, like voices and the register and reported object manipulation, like the pans, at Nannup, it perfectly aligns with that classic definition of poltergeist activity, German for noisy ghost. Often suggests something manifesting through physical disturbances rather than clear apparitions.
Right.
Ghost hunters have investigated this place extensively, and it's firmly on all the haunted places lists because there are just so many consistent reports over the years.
It sounds like a must-visit for paranormal enthusiasts. Now, these historical locations, they certainly have their share of lingering presences, but what about hauntings that happen in more everyday places? Like residential homes. We have several personal accounts from homes around Perth and Fremantle. They're maybe even more chilling because they invade our most private, familiar spaces.
Yeah, these personal accounts are really powerful, aren't they? They offer this intimate glimpse into the paranormal, happening where you should feel safest. Take the former resident of 196 South Tice, Como, in Perth.
Okay.
They talked about constantly feeling watched, hair standing up on end. Then they actually saw a tall, dark-haired man in a suit, reflected in a mirror. Only later, doing some research, they found out he was the previous owner who had actually died in that very room.
Wow. That's a direct connection. Classic apparition tied to a person in place.
Exactly. And the family even named a recurring ghost George. Apparently responsible for glasses flying across the kitchen, hiding things in weird places, scissors in the freezer, car keys in the freezer.
The freezer. That's oddly specific. Mischievous.
Seems like it. What's intriguing is that the father would apparently shout at George, tell him to behave, and then the items would mysteriously reappear. Suggests a kind of interaction, maybe even an intelligent, responsive presence.
Sounds like an annoying, but maybe not terrifying, ghost housemate. But another account, this one from 34 Forest Street in White Gum Valley, Fremantle, built in 1923, describes something much more violent and, well, inexplicable.
Yeah, this account is definitely more unsettling. A resident described experiencing a vision, saw a light switch moving on its own. Then a heavy brass light fixture suddenly bent, smashed, and glass just rained down.
Oh.
An electrician later confirmed that kind of damage would need extreme force, way beyond any normal explanation, like faulty wiring.
Any context for that house?
Interestingly, yes. The house was built near the site of a Noongar massacre that happened in the early 1900s. That adds this profound historical layer, doesn't it? Suggests a possible connection to past violence, unresolved trauma in the land itself.
It definitely adds weight.
Then there's this incredibly disturbing experience reported by someone living in Belden, up in the Joondalup district of Perth. They reported seeing two ghosts, a man and a woman. The woman often seemed to warn them about the man before he appeared.
A warning ghost. Oh.
And the male ghost. Allegedly induced sleep paralysis, scratched and choked the resident, played mind games, even threw cryptals that had been brought in for protection.
That's terrifying. That's not just bumps in the night. That's direct, aggressive interaction.
Exactly. These aren't just subtle feelings. These are direct, frightening, potentially malevolent encounters. Suggests a much more aggressive type of intelligent haunting.
These personal encounters are undeniably chilling. They offer a glimpse into how the paranormal can just invade our everyday lives, our homes. But what about locations where intense, concentrated suffering was, well, deliberately inflicted? Let's delve into the dark histories now of Western Australia's former prisons and asylums, places where torment was a daily reality for so many. And we have to start with the infamous Fremantle Prison, a World Heritage Site that just undeniably holds echoes of its brutal past.
Fremantle Prison, yeah. Originally called the Convict Establishment, is practically a monument to suffering. Built by the convicts themselves, using limestone quarried right there on site between 1852 and 1859, it was designed to be imposing, inescapable.
You can feel that just looking at it.
Absolutely. It housed murderers, thieves, rogues, as they called them. Also served as a military prison for POWs during both World Wars. When it finally closed in 1991, it became one of the world's largest surviving convict prisons and eventually got that World Heritage listing.
And the executions.
The grim reality, yeah. 44 people were executed at its gallows, including Martha Rendell, the only woman executed there, convicted of murdering her stepchildren. The sheer concentration of pain, despair, violent death, especially in such a confined space, is a powerful generator for paranormal reports, as if the anguish is just trapped within those limestone walls.
And the reports there are as varied as the prisoners it held, aren't they? Martha Rendell's story in particular seems very persistent.
Absolutely. The legend is that Martha Rendell's face occasionally appears in the chapel window, a really haunting image of her lingering presence. Prison staff, visitors on those popular torchlight tours, they frequently report seeing shadowy figures pacing the cell blocks. That unnerving feeling of cold hands brushing their necks. People even faint sometimes, inexplicably, especially in the gallows room, a place just steeped in so much death.
Understandable reaction, maybe.
Perhaps. There's also the chilling story of a former inmate, nicknamed the Hangman, apparently relished his duties. But after his own mysterious death within the prison walls, his ghost is said to haunt the place, causing lights to flicker, ropes to swing, an unsettling echo of his past role.
Wow. And specific cells have reputations, too.
Oh yeah. Cell 17 in particular is notoriously cold and quiet. Some mediums reportedly refused to even enter it, claiming the soul inside never left the rope, implying a particularly agonizing, unresolved death.
Jeez.
There's even an anecdote from a former guard. He described seeing the ghost of a prisoner who'd been murdered by another inmate during an escape attempt, just looking out a window. A glimpse into a specific moment of tragedy still replaying. It truly feels like the prison's past is still very much alive within its walls. Chilling collective memory.
Okay, from Fremantle, let's journey down to another, equally grim place of confinement. The Albany Convict Gaol Museum. And the echoes of its infamous black hole still seem to chill visitors today.
Yes, the Albany Jail. Constructed in 1852, initially to house skilled convicts, brought over from Britain. Later served as a public prison, police lockup, right up until the 1930s. Now it's a museum, but the experiences people report inside those stone walls are anything but academic.
What kind of experiences?
Numerous visitors, staff too, describe paranormal phenomena. Unexplained sounds like wailing, knocks, footsteps echoing through the empty cell blocks. Suggests a whole chorus of unseen former inhabitants.
And the black hole? That sounds ominous.
It was. An oppressive solitary confinement cell. Tiny, just 8 by 4 feet. No windows, no light. Designed for maximum sensory deprivation. And legend says up to 20 men were crammed in there at a time.
20 in that space.
That's the story. And it's claimed 3 men actually died from suffocation after being locked in for 24 hours. Visitors who go into that cell today often report feeling intense unease, dizziness, even head spins. Almost like an empathetic response to the sheer horror of what was endured in there.
So are specific entities reported here too, like in Fremantle, giving names to these presences?
Yes. Named ghosts are said to inhabit different sections. There's an Amy, or Emily, supposedly in the women's section, a Joseph in the black hole, even reports of a ghostly dog. Suggest even animals were caught up in the grim atmosphere.
A ghostly dog.
And again, Amy's Crypt, the investigator we mentioned, she's covered this site too, which contributes to its reputation as a place where the past genuinely lingers, leaving this undeniable impression on people who visit.
Okay, shifting now from prisons to places of mental confinement. Montgomery Hall in Mount Claremont. It was part of the former Claremont Hospital for the Insane. This place has its own share of haunting speculation, doesn't it? A place where many were essentially forgotten.
Yes. Montgomery Hall served as the dining hall for inpatients at Claremont Hospital for the Insane from 1904 right up to 1984. And Claremont was WA's largest standalone psychiatric facility.
A huge institution.
Huge. And hospital records show a high death rate. Importantly, many patients were admitted not just for mental health issues as we'd understand them, but for physical illnesses, kidney disease, tertiary syphilis, often in an era before effective treatments existed.
So a lot of suffering and death beyond just psychiatric issues.
Exactly. And this high number of deaths inevitably led to widespread speculation about paranormal activity, because these were often marginalized individuals, people with little voice in life. Today, while Montgomery Hall itself has been redeveloped, it's used for community purposes, aged care, most of the other old asylum buildings remain vacant, still holding that silent, eerie presence, a testament to their abandonment.
And the anecdotes from people who explored those abandoned buildings before the redevelopment, they sound particularly vivid, suggesting a really palpable bad vibe.
Absolutely. Urban explorers, security guards back in the 90s, they talked about finding remnants of the asylum, old beds, upturned chairs, graffiti, and experiencing this profound bad vibe or eerie feeling. Intense enough that it apparently caused some security guards to just quit. They couldn't handle the oppressive atmosphere.
Wow.
There are also these odd reports of pigeons stirring unexpectedly inside, linked to unseen presences. A small detail, maybe, but it speaks to that pervasive, unsettling feeling. It suggests a very real atmosphere, regardless of belief in ghosts. Like the concentrated suffering left an energetic imprint on the place.
Nearby, there's also the former Heathcote Mental Hospital, operated from 1929 to 1994. It also seems to have its share of dark legends, illustrating the anxieties and tragedies often linked with these institutions.
Yeah, while confirmed details might be a bit sparser for Heathcote compared to Claremont, the nature of the legends themselves is telling. Stories of a murder or suicide in a bathroom in the nurses' quarters, Duncraig House specifically. Another chilling claim about a patient escaping, raping a nurse, then committing suicide near the clock tower. These stories speak volumes about the profound anxieties and, frankly, the dark realities associated with such places back then.
Is there any confirmation of tragedy there?
Crucially, yes, we do have historical confirmation of at least one tragedy. A murder-suicide involving two women occurred near the hospital grounds back in 1940. So even without, loads of specific ghost sightings, the echoes of these real traumatic events create an unsettling atmosphere. They shape the local lore, foster this sense of lingering unease about the site's past. It proves that real-world tragedies often become the bedrock upon which ghost stories are built.
That makes sense. Okay, our journey into these places of suffering next takes us to the Old York Hospital, a building that served as a hospital back in the 1890s, treated the sick and dying, even acted as a treatment center during a TB outbreak. Later, it was a youth hostel, and now it's believed to be a private residence. But its past clearly hasn't been forgotten by everyone, and the suffering endured within its walls seems to have left a very strong imprint.
No, it certainly hasn't been forgotten. The reports from the Old York Hospital are quite chilling and remarkably consistent over time. Guests and visitors have consistently described hearing unseen children's laughter echoing through empty halls.
Oh, that's heartbreaking given its past.
It is. And they also report the distinct sound of a nurse's shoes tapping on the floor, even when no one is physically there. Suggests a residual energy, maybe of past caregivers going about their duties.
And specific rooms have reputations.
Room 5 in particular is greatly feared. Guests have reported waking up paralyzed, unable to move, with this shadowy figure looming at the foot of their bed. Classic symptoms of sleep paralysis, often attributed in folklore to malevolent entities.
Terrifying.
One guest claims she saw a woman dressed in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform, just staring out a window. But when she went into the room, it became ice cold and completely empty. That sudden temperature drop again, often associated with a spirit manifesting or departing.
We even have that personal recollection, don't we? Someone who visited as a child, describing feeling intensely watched, and their friend screaming after feeling a gentle touch on his temple. Plus, the persistent rumors of an angry matron in the attic suggests a stern, maybe judgmental presence still overseeing the place.
And it's telling, isn't it, that the building's current status as a private residence, now boarded up and fenced off, is apparently linked explicitly to things that have happened to people staying there.
So the activity was significant enough to warrant that?
It suggests so. Moving from local lore to direct action. The accumulation of these accounts from different sources over time really solidifies its reputation as a genuinely haunted location, where the work of healing seems to have left more than just memories behind.
Right. Finally, in this section on confinement and suffering, we arrive at Fairbridge Village in Pinjarra, a location with a profoundly controversial and heartbreaking history, deeply linked to the redress scheme for institutional abuse. This is a place where many orphan souls endured unimaginable hardship.
Fairbridge Village.
Yes.
Originally built to house orphan children, sent mainly from Britain. But its history is far from the idyllic picture, sometimes painted. It carries a dark past of lost voices and forgotten cries, a phrase that, honestly, barely scratches the surface of the suffering that occurred there.
And its link to the redress scheme highlights that this wasn't just isolated incidents.
Exactly. It points to the systemic nature of the trauma endured by many children in institutions like this. We have accounts, like one from a former student who vividly recounted daily beatings with rosary beads, a horrifying detail that paints a grim picture of their life.
It's awful.
Another story tells of a brother who threatened his parents with a shotgun to avoid being sent back to Fairbridge. Illustrates the profound fear and desperation these children felt. This traumatic history, child suffering, abuse, separation from family, it lays a very heavy foundation for the paranormal activity reported there.
And the reports from the village seem to reflect this tragic past, often involving the spirits of children, their innocence still trapped there somehow.
Precisely. At night, people report windows rattling when there's no wind. Children's laughter echoing through empty halls, a sound that can be both joyful and, given the context, deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
Guests report hearing tiny footsteps, seeing shadowy figures darting between the trees outside, and finding small, dusty handprints appearing on the inside of cabin windows, as if the children are still there, still trying to connect, maybe.
That's incredibly sad.
There's one particularly unsettling legend about a boy in a cap who supposedly roams the grounds. If he points at you, the warning is, don't follow him. Because one person who apparently did was found wandering hours later, completely unable to speak.
Whoa, that sounds like a potentially dangerous encounter. An intelligent haunting interacting with the living.
It does. And beyond these specific encounters, many people just describe an overall eerie feeling in the air. Specific anecdotes mention a shower door opening and closing on its own, the sounds of little kids' footsteps and giggling heard on verandas when no one's there. Even the church within Fairbridge, a place meant for solace, is often described as weird and unsettling, suggests that no corner of this village is untouched by its tragic history.
It sounds like a place carrying a very heavy weight.
This really raises an important question, doesn't it? How do these historical accounts, often rooted in such tangible suffering, compare to more contemporary phenomena? And how does skepticism fit into our understanding of these evolving stories? We've seen how intensely human suffering seems to imprint itself on a place.
Definitely.
But sometimes the unexplained emerges in the most unexpected modern settings, or from older places that suddenly gain new notoriety. Let's start with the Swanview Tunnel, up in the Perth Hills. It was an engineering feat, but through tragedy, it turned into this deeply haunted trail.
It's incredible how a piece of infrastructure, just a tunnel, can gain such a reputation. The Swanview Tunnel, designed by the famous C.Y. O'Connor back in 1894, it was a 340-meter railway tunnel, the first in WA, considered a major engineering achievement for its time, a real triumph in difficult terrain.
But the construction itself was perilous. Local legend claims many lives were lost, though official records are apparently sparse on that. Workers faced incredibly tough conditions, blasting through hard rock with dynamite, using hand tools, often in cramped, really dangerous spaces.
Not an easy build.
Not at all. And the problems didn't stop when it was finished. Open in 1895, it quickly proved problematic. The bore was too narrow, ventilation was poor, steam from the locomotives would just fill the tunnel, causing asphyxiation risks for train crews and passengers. A truly dangerous environment.
That sounds terrifying for the train drivers.
Imagine. And the worst incident, the one that got widely publicized, happened in 1903, though some sources mention 1942 as another major incident year. A train stalled inside the tunnel. The drivers and around 20 firefighters who went in to help lost consciousness from the fumes. One driver tragically died.
Oh, wow. That event must have really solidified its reputation for danger.
Absolutely. It was decommissioned by 1966, and now is part of the Railway Reserve's Heritage Trail. Beautiful walking path, actually, but its past is far from forgotten.
And that dark history means it's not just a scenic hike for everyone. Locals have apparently long whispered that the tunnel is cursed or haunted by the spirits of those who died building or working in it. And the paranormal activity reported there is quite diverse, isn't it? Not just one type of thing.
Very much so. Hikers report seeing mysterious lights, or these self-illuminated balls of light, often called orbs, floating in the darkness of the tunnel.
Orbs again. Skeptics always say dust or moisture.
They do, and often that's true with photos. But the consistent reports here, sometimes seen with the naked eye, in such a confined, historically charged space. It continues to fuel speculation among enthusiasts that maybe they represent focused points of energy or even nascent apparitions.
Interesting. What else?
People also describe hearing echoing voices or footsteps coming from deep in the tunnel when it's visibly empty. Phantom footsteps have reportedly even been captured on audio recordings suggesting auditory residual energy.
Okay.
But perhaps the most unsettling are the physical sensations. People report sudden shortness of breath or dizziness inside the tunnel, a really chilling parallel to those historical suffocation incidents.
Like feeling what they felt.
That's the speculation. And people often say they recover immediately upon exiting the tunnel, which leads to theories that it might be the spirits of the 1903 accident impressing their dying moments onto the living. Inexplicable drops in temperature are also commonly reported, further suggesting unseen presences.
And there's even a specific named ghost associated with the tunnel, making it more personal.
Yes. Apparently, a particular spirit has been given the name Fred.
Fred! How did that happen?
During one investigation, using a device called a spirit box, the ones that scan radio frequencies creating white noise, which some believe spirits can manipulate to speak.
Right.
Well, when asked for a name, the name Fred reportedly came through clearly, startling the investigators. Ghost tours were even organized back in the 90s, early 2000s, especially around Halloween, recounting the morbid history and the sightings of figures in old railway worker clothes or maybe the suffocated passengers.
Must have been popular tours.
I imagine so. There's also a compelling personal account from someone whose phone spontaneously started playing a Pink Floyd song inside the tunnel, and then again right at the western exit. Despite the phone supposedly not being on, the music app wasn't open, just started playing.
Weird tech glitches or something more.
Who knows? Another hiker reported their camera just wouldn't work inside the tunnel itself, but functioned perfectly fine the moment they stepped outside. It really sounds like a very active, multisensory haunting. Suggests a powerful residual energy from the past clinging to that place.
Okay, from the historic and eerie Swanview Tunnel, we're going to make a really surprising leap now to a very modern location down south in Bunbury, the Eaton Fair Shopping Center. This is definitely not your typical haunted house, yet it's apparently been experiencing some rather recent and quite public paranormal activity.
Yeah, this is a truly contemporary haunting, which makes it particularly intriguing because it's happening in a space designed for modern life shopping, eating out far from the usual old prisons or creepy mansions.
So what's been going on?
Over recent weeks and months, there's been this spate of spooky occurrences reported, some even supposedly caught on CCTV. One local shopper told a story about feeling a strange chill, seeing a shadow, and then suddenly finding her shopping carts full at Kmart, already checked out, but with no memory of doing it.
Her only explanation was possession.
That's what she reportedly said. It suggests something disorienting, maybe even mischievous or playful, rather than outright scary, but definitely unsettling.
I'll say. And it's not just customers experiencing things. Staff are affected, too.
That's right. Allison Bailey, who works at customer service, described seeing strange shapes and figures appearing for just a second and then completely disappearing on the security cameras. It apparently led to staff being reluctant to do night shifts, feeling genuinely unnerved.
I don't blame them.
There are also noise complaints coming from empty areas, especially the food court, late at night, suggesting unseen activity. A security guard, speaking anonymously, talked about hearing laughter and commotion in the main St. Mall area where the eateries are. Went to check, found it totally empty, but then saw a quick, blurry figure zip across the CCTV feed. He described the events as feeling unearthly.
Wow. And the shopping center management, how are they handling this? Usually places try to hush this stuff up.
Well, this is where it gets really unique. The management are openly acknowledging these mysterious events, which is rare for a commercial place. And their response has been quite creative, actually. Very community-focused.
How so?
They've actually brought in an expert scientist, Dr. Gunter Hans, to advise them on how to rid the center of these paranormal creatures.
Seriously, a Ghostbuster for the mall.
Kind of. And Dr. Hans, in a rather unconventional move, created a Halloween game app. The idea is people use the app to concoct powerful potions to help protect the center. They've even set up an active cauldron in the mall for community use.
An app and a cauldron. Okay.
And the retailers are involved too, offering prizes to encourage people to participate. They've basically turned a potential haunting problem into this community-wide interactive event. It's this fascinating blend of modern tech, retail strategy, and, well, supernatural belief. Shows how even today, communities still find ways to understand and address the unexplained, sometimes with a bit of fun.
That is a very 21st century ghost story. Okay, our next spectral destination takes us back to a more traditional setting, the Kenwick Pioneer Cemetery in Perth. Another historic site, but with a distinctly memorable ghostly legend, a really striking apparition.
Yes, this cemetery was constructed by convicts back in 1865. Originally marked a whole township site, courthouse, church, school were nearby. But today, very few gravestones actually remain, which adds to its kind of desolate atmosphere.
And the legend.
The most enduring legend here is that of the Headless Horseman of Kenwick.
A headless horseman, like Sleepy Hollow.
Pretty much. Around midnight, apparently, on the train line flyover that goes towards Armadale, many people over the years have reported spotting a man riding a horse
Yeah.
while holding his own head.
Jeez, that's a vivid image. Who is he supposed to be?
He's said to be an English soldier,
Yeah.
though interestingly, the city of Gosnell's history librarian suggests this might be more of an urban legend rather than being linked to a specific, historically verifiable soldier's death there.
Ah, okay, so maybe folklore rather than fact.
Possibly. Nevertheless, it's a very specific dramatic apparition, a truly classic ghostly image. And its hold on the local imagination is strong enough that monthly ghost walks are still offered there. It's become part of the local folklore.
Definitely memorable. We also have the Midland Town Hall over in Perth, an important civic building, but one that harbors the tragic story of Daria Mulawa. Her violent end seems to have left a lasting imprint there.
Yeah, this hall was officially opened in 1907, served as the council chambers, got restored after the big Meckering earthquake in '68. But its most prominent haunting is directly linked to that brutal murder of 33-year-old Daria Mulawa right there on its steps back in 1955.
What happened to her?
She was stabbed 11 times by her ex-husband just after she'd managed to get a separation order against him. A truly tragic act of domestic violence. Her ex-husband was later sentenced to death, executed at Fremantle Prison for the crime.
Awful. And her spirit is believed to still be there.
65 years later, yes. Her spirit is believed to live on in the hall, forever tied to the site of her violent death. It makes it a popular spot for ghost tours. They run 2-hour tours where visitors can use paranormal equipment, EMF meters, spirit boxes, try to connect with her.
And are there other ghosts reported nearby too?
Adding to the mix, yeah. Cleaners at the Midland Tafe next door have reported seeing a smoking man ghost, described as quite chill. Apparently gives a smile and a nod.
The friendly ghost.
Seems like it. And also a Noongar woman dressed in kangaroo skins carrying a baby, but she apparently appears angry. Suggests multiple layers of history, different traumas maybe, converging in that area.
It really shows how these stories layer up over time. Okay, finally, let's just quickly touch upon a scattering of other notable mentions and anecdotes from across Western Australia. These really fill out this rich tapestry of hauntings, showing just how widespread these phenomena seem to be.
There are so many threads you could follow across the Southwest, honestly. The Leaderville Hotel in Perth, for instance, said to be haunted by Kunga, a former resident, maybe owned a betting shop there. Particularly active on the stairs leading up to his old tower room.
Kunga, any specific incidents?
He's even credited with setting off alarms repeatedly. Apparently, they only stopped after the frustrated staff left a note asking him to please cease and desist. Suggests a very intelligent, maybe even responsive presence.
Leaving notes for ghosts. Love it. What else?
The Mahogany Inn out at Mahogany Creek in the Perth Hills, reportedly haunted by the famous bushranger Moondine Joe, a real legendary figure of the region. And there's a personal account from back in the 80s. A child, their sister and cousin, apparently saw a ghost upstairs when the hotel was completely closed up for the night, making the sighting all the more inexplicable.
And even places of leisure, like golf clubs or places of justice, they aren't exempt, are they? Spirits don't seem to care about a building's function.
That's right. Mount Lawley Golf Club has reports of apparitions, glowing orbs, and these inexplicable sensations of terror, linked to a suicide that apparently happened near the 11th or 13th hole back in the 1930s, tying the haunting again to a specific tragic event. The Fitzgerald Hotel in Northbridge, haunted by a white-haired lady in a lace dress who apparently moves things around. Classic poltergeist-like activity. And right in the heart of Perth CBD, the Supreme Court building experiences books falling off shelves, items moving. Custodial staff report uneasy feelings, especially in restricted areas. Echoes of past legal dramas, maybe. Unresolved cases.
Could be. We also have a few bridge-related apparitions, don't we? Adding a touch of romance or mystery to our waterways.
We do. The Pinjarra Bridge has the ghost of Kate. Died tragically on the bridge back in the 1860s. Her apparition reportedly appeared annually for 6 years, but then vanished when people started trying to photograph her, suggests a self-aware, perhaps shy spirit. And Thomas Scott's diary apparently offers this detailed eyewitness account of multiple people trying to observe and interact with her ghost, adds significant historical weight, verification to the legend.
Right. And Mandurah Bridge.
A compelling personal account from Mandurah Bridge describes someone encountering a white-haired old man who just mysteriously disappeared moments after being seen walking down the stairs under the bridge. A fleeting, totally unexplained encounter.
And there are mentions of the Brown Lady ghost at a Vic Park nursing home. And perhaps most broadly, the entire town of Tooje, east of Perth, is basically considered haunted.
Indeed, Tooje stands out as this veritable hub of paranormal activity. So many locations there have stories. The Ipswich View B&B, the former jail, various taverns.
Yeah.
There's even the Deepdale swimming hole, reportedly haunted by a girl named Ruby Ferguson who drowned there. Glowing orbs sighted near the spot. Other mentions include a place called Christmas 360, the Freemason Hotel, the Mill, various tea rooms. It truly shows how pervasive these stories are across the region. Like every corner holds a tale of a past presence, weaving this unseen history into the fabric of the community.
So after all that, what does this all mean? We've journeyed through Western Australia's incredibly diverse, often chilling, haunted landscapes, from those tragic shipwrecks and isolated quarantine stations to bustling modern malls and quiet country towns. This Logic Leak deep dive has explored tales clinging to pretty much every corner of the Southwest, from Perth and Freo down to Bunbury, Nannup the Hills, revealing just how deeply the past seems imprinted on these places.
And through this deep dive, we've definitely seen some powerful, recurring themes emerge, haven't we? There's the undeniable weight of tragic deaths, violent ends, often leading to spirits maybe having unfinished business or just leaving this powerful emotional residue behind.
Yeah.
We've seen historical suffering seemingly imprinted on the very fabric of buildings, prisons, asylums, homesteads, a testament to the sheer intensity of human experience. And then there are those just inexplicable phenomena that defy easy categorization. The moving objects, the sudden chills, the disembodied voices, the fleeting apparitions.
Right.
These stories, whether you believe in spirits literally or not, they're deeply woven into the cultural fabric, the history of Western Australia. They preserve narratives, human stories that might otherwise just be forgotten. They're a form of collective memory, aren't they? Holding on to the experiences of the past, often providing those aha moments that make us reconsider the ordinary places around us.
This really raises an important question, though. What can we actually take away from all this, beyond maybe just a good scare? We've seen how knowledge from such diverse sources, meticulous historical records, personal eyewitness accounts, modern tech like CCTV, even paranormal investigation devices, how it all contributes to the richness, the persistence of these narratives.
And it reminds us that history isn't just in books, is it? It's in the very air, the architecture, the land around us.
Definitely.
And regardless of whether you believe in the literal existence of spirits, these stories, I think, powerfully encourage critical thinking about our past. They prompt us to consider the profound impact of historical events, individual tragedies. They speak to this fundamental human need we have to make sense of the unexplainable, to process grief maybe, and to connect with the lives that came before us. What's compelling here too is how different types of phenomena seem to converge in these locations. You get visual apparitions, auditory experiences like voices or footsteps, physical sensations like cold spots or being touched.
Yeah, the whole range.
It invites you to consider if there are maybe different types of hauntings happening. Perhaps that residual energy from past events playing like a recording, alongside maybe more interactive, intelligent presences that seem aware of the living. These narratives ultimately invite us to look closer at the ordinary places around us, your local park, an old building on your street, even that modern shopping center, and consider the layers of history, human experience that lie just beneath the surface.
So as you, listening, move through your own daily life, maybe take a moment. Imagine the untold stories hidden in the places you inhabit. What unseen histories, what lingering energies might be just beneath the surface of your own familiar surroundings. Are we truly alone in these spaces? Or are there echoes of the past just waiting to be heard by those who, well, listen closely enough? Perhaps the real deep dive is into the stories right outside your own door, if you're brave enough to seek them out.